Hello and welcome to episode 69 of Paper Tuesdays. Michael Dwyer, Mark Alpin, Robbie Dunn.
Well, we've some guests lined up for us today, Mark. It's jiu-jitsu expert Seanie Davitt. How are you, Seanie?
Shawnee.
How's it going, guys?
Seanie, I suppose we'll get into it. How did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Got into it in about 2008. I'd finished college in Waterford. I was doing judo at that point down there, and I was already a black belt down there teaching. But when I came back to Wexford, there was no judo, there was no jiu-jitsu. There was an MMA club down in Wexford town, so I headed down there just for a bit of training, and kind of saw another side of grappling. That was the jiu-jitsu, and got hooked into it. Loved it. I kind of said I could add this to my judo game and be more all-rounded. And for when I was doing the MMA, I was progressing up to jiu-jitsu. So yeah, just kept going. If anyone knows me, and I get my teeth into, I just stick with it and just don't quit at it till I get really good at it, and then just keep going anyway.
Back then, it would have been a much smaller community, wouldn't it?
No, Jesus, like a blue belt back then was, like nearly a mystical creature. It was like a unicorn, and the thought of a purple belt was like, oh my God, this is from the heavens, So, people were white belts for a long time. If you went to a competition back then, geez, the blue belt division was like, the cream of the crop in Ireland at the time. It was very rare. Everyone back then thought, everyone was kind of from boxing or kickboxing or taekwondo background. So the idea of cuddling a guy on the ground aggressively was like, what the hell is that? It kind of scared people a bit.
How would you describe it to someone who'd be interested in doing it as a New Year's resolution? What do you think are the grounding principles of it?
Look, jiu-jitsu, I kind of think there's a hierarchy to it. First, most importantly, with jiu-jitsu, for people who are a bit self-conscious and stuff, there's no striking involved in it, so you're not going to get punched, you're not going to get kicked, or anything like that. So your face will largely stay nice and pretty. You'll get in shape pretty quick as well. Nothing makes you move quicker than someone trying to choke you. But the thing is with jiu-jitsu is trying to be very patient as well. But what you're doing is you're having the crack as well. You're having fun. You're learning actual real life practical self-defense things as well. And you know what? You have to find a team that's good fun as well. If you're not having the fun, why would you do it? Like realistically, the idea of going in, mixing in with people, and learning how to simulate murder doesn't appeal to everyone. Okay, but the basic things in jiu-jitsu, okay, most fights finish on the ground. So one of the first things you learn is how to get the fight to the ground, or if you're going to fall on the ground, how to make life a bit more comfortable for yourself via break fall. When you're there, then you're going to learn how to finish it off as efficiently as possible, whether that's attacking the neck or the arm, or when you get to more advanced stages, you're going to learn about leg locks and things like that. So you're going to basically take a guy apart as quick as possible, but have fun while you're doing it as well. Look, the thing I'd say most about jiu-jitsu is it's about using your body to the maximum of efficiency. Okay, like anyone who knows me knows that my body is in tatters. Okay, and that could be from rock climbing accidents. It could be from big judo matches or MMA matches or something like that. And my knees don't work as well as they should. So I have to adapt it to suit me, and I've developed a style that works very well for me. Other people might have really long legs and they mightn't have a really dominant upper body, so you can adapt it to suit the needs of the person. Maybe someone might see themselves as very overweight or whatever, and I say, okay, we can use, instead of using muscle mass, we can use mass, to take advantage. Everyone has a different way of using their body shape, and you very quickly get into shape. You fight, flight, or freeze, and if your knees are gone like mine, you can't really run that far anymore. So the flight option is out of it. But it's just getting in, having fun. And one of the reasons I got into all this stuff was that I used to be a big fan of WWE for a long, long time. And I always wanted to be able to drop people's elbow and do a Stone Cold Stunner and all that. And judo was the closest thing to it at the time. And then when there was no judo, it's jiu-jitsu. So you find a lot of lads who are wrestling fans or fans who are just getting physical. You got a lot of guys who cross over from rugby, particularly when they're not playing as much anymore, or you get a lot of Gaelic football lads getting quite a lot out of it. When Jason Ryan was in charge of the Wexford football team, he had me come down and work with him,
Oh,
doing some of the preseason stuff. So I done some judo, jiu-jitsu stuff with them, and I done some of the preseason work because I'm a fitness instructor, but I'm also got a master's in sports psychology. So I was working all that in and just seeing the crossover in skills. It's amazing. Like the body only moves certain ways, and once you can teach it to move different ways, you can transfer from one sport to another. So, like if someone's really good at football and evading tackles and stuff, guess what? You learn how to move your body away from a moving target. So if some fella's charging at you, get out of the way, and attack the back when they can't attack you. Simples.
yeah, you spoke about transference of skills and you work a good bit with children. That must be great because, they don't have any preconceptions and they're a pure force and you can just show them new skills
Yeah,
in a new way.
you can mold them. It depends what TV shows they've been watching.
Yeah.
If they've been watching was it PJ Masks or something like that, they all think it's all jumping around, high flying and stuff like that. Or if they're watching some other TV show like Pokemon or something, you have to try and make it relevant to them as well. So when I'm teaching the kids, I try to, if there's a hierarchy of coaching, very first thing is fun and mental, the fundamentals. Okay, first thing you have to make it fun, and you have to be absolutely mental to do it. Okay, so if I'm doing this, we're going to say, okay, we're going to do a rollover, and if you say we're going to do a tumble, it's like, oh, here we go, here's the exercise. If you do a tumble and you say, all right, we're going to do this like Gecko in PJ Masks, they're like, oh, I get to be like one of my favorite superheroes. Like, grand, cool. So you're using tricks in their mind to have fun. And once they're having fun, they'll buy into it. And then every now and again you show something kind of a little bit cool, like a backflip, or you show a throw or something that you make someone do a cartwheel, and they're like, oh my God, that's magic. And before they know it, they actually know how to do the moves themselves. You've actually taught them how to do all the moves through games. And kids are amazing. They're not going to lie, they can be hard work sometimes, but they're great, and you can mold them. And one of the things I kind of do with the kids classes is we separate them up into, when we could have kids classes, into smaller groups, kind of age focused and that. And maybe some of the kids who are more advanced, we'll let them work with one of our other coaches there, Alex. He'll go through more of the fundamental kind of things. I tend to stick with the basics of movement and human movement patterns and stuff. Like humans weren't meant to sit in front of a computer screen all day and be hunched over and stuff. They're meant to climb trees, fight, wrestle, swim, run. That's what these fabulous bodies are made for. So getting kids to learn that, how amazing their bodies are, that's kind of what I go to, and I teach the basic moves. And if I say something like a hip escape, okay, so Mark, you know what hip escape is now. So if basically if someone's on top of you, you shift your hips to the side so they're not on top of you anymore. You can get away. And if I say that a shrimp, what the Americans would call it a lot, they're like, what? That's shrimp. And I say, okay, I'm going to call it a prawn. And they're like, oh, like those strange things that mommy and daddy eat. And you're like, yeah, okay. And they curl their body and come out of it. It's about getting into the kid's head and learn it the way they learn, And speaking of that kind of thing, I don't know if you know about this, I teach a lot of special needs judo classes, particularly for kids. We call it Judo Assist. And all we do is we get the kids in, and they just do judo the exact same. You have to make some adaptations depending on what the ability level is. Like for some kids maybe with Down syndrome, I don't know if you're aware of it, but in Down syndrome there can be a looseness in the neck where literally the skull can literally lift straight off spinal column. Okay, so like obviously you have to check that first before you get a medical on that. But so just to make that safe for those kids, we don't do any of the headlock throws or headlock pins, because really, if you grab someone by the head and throw them, things could happen. We don't like that kind of stuff. But for some kids with autism and stuff, they'll need a thing called deep pressure, which is kind of, people wear weighted blankets sometimes to help relax them. If you want to get weight on you, get a judo guy to pin you, and you will know what weight and pressure on your chest is. And they find it so therapeutic. It's amazing.
No No way, that's unbelievable. What I love, Shawnee, is that you've a few interests and they're all connected through martial arts and that, but like you've upskilled and you've degrees in social care right up to sports psychology, and they all tap into what you're all about. It must be great to have that skill set behind you as well.
Ah, yeah, no, it's good to have it. I'm always learning. Like Jesus, like I'm in my library here now, and I've a couple of hundred books, and you never stop learning. You know, whether it's reading some kind of a fantasy novel about an orc attacking some kingdom or something, or reading Tyson Fury's new book. There, you know, you just learn from other people's experiences and see if it'll actually, help you. Like,
Yeah.
but I think one of the things is real for people to start realizing who they actually are as well.
Right.
I always remember when I was in school and I was 16 doing leaving cert, and I had a guidance counselor, and he said, "Oh, you know where the money is now, boy. You'd want to get into that electronic engineering." I'm going, "Okay, I'm really crap at maths, but sure." Went on the PLC, went to college, done it for 2 years, and I sucked at it. Absolutely sucked. But I did find judo there, so that kind of helped me find my other things. But done a PLC then in sports and recreation, done the social care, started the social care degree at the same time, so doing two courses at once. And I just found, okay, I meant to deal with people rather than machines,
Yeah.
you know. And I just found Special Olympics at that point then. And I was like, okay, if I can work with people with special needs and sports together, it's like, right, this is great. Love this. And I just kept advancing it and advancing it. And now, like, my day job is I run a service in Wexford called Kite, which is for people with high functioning autism or Asperger's, what some people would call it. And for people who've left school and trying to find their way in life, I suppose. And, and at the same time at that, like I do the Gorey Grappling Academy as well. So you're helping people from all strands. We're meant to host the European Jiu-Jitsu or Judo Special Needs Judo Championship there in October last year up in Nina, but COVID kind of destroyed that. But we have a couple of European champions in our gym, Special Olympics European champions, and they would kick anyone's ass.
Yeah.
I'm not joking you. Like, they'd kill you.
There must be great satisfaction in seeing their progress.
Oh yeah, people might think, okay, yeah, that movement's easy. I'm going to take autism for example, because it's one it's very close to me. So someone might say, oh, just step here, step here, step here, and go that. Put your hip across. Okay, so that might sound simple to someone who has full control of their movement patterns. Someone with autism mightn't have that kind of control. They might have to calculate everything up in their mind because their mind is kind of moves or works slightly different. So they might have to really motor plan that, might have to really kind of focus and repeat it. So it becomes muscle memory. So say I was teaching yourself a basic hip throw, Michael, okay, put your hand around the waist, grab them by the elbow, put your hip across and flip. And you might see that and you're like, okay, kind of cool. And you might feel a little bit unsure at first, but you'd probably learn it within 5 minutes, or the basic variation of it. Someone maybe with autism who might have motor planning issues, it could take 2 or 3 days of constant repeat. But the thing is, they will never forget it because the if you want to put neural pathways and all that in their brain, will actually teach them to do it. So like when you see how hard it is for people with very special needs to do it, and that's when they're in the door. It can be hard enough for people to even come in that door first. Like the first time someone enters maybe a martial arts dojo or a gym or something, it's intimidating. Can you imagine entering a gym for the first time or a dojo when everyone has told you, you wouldn't be good at it, might be too hard for you, or maybe they've done a team sport and maybe they were isolated, no one passed them the ball or something like that, and then they're saying, oh, try another sport, and their head's already in their hands walking in. They're maybe doing it to keep their mom or dad happy or something like that, and they come in and they find out, oh, well, I can play games, I can learn moves, and before I know it, I'm actually able to compete if they choose to. So a lot of stuff I do in those classes is to get people to start believing in themselves. you know, and what they can do rather than what they can't or what people tell them they can't do. You know, I suppose another thing we've done that it's separate. We used to work in St. Aidan's in Gorey, up in the Saoirse unit, and we used to put on this great show called Saoirse on Stage. Okay, it used to sell out the little theatre every year. Great crack. I used to get the piss taken out of me every year. Just used to be ourselves, few staff be on stage, and the guys themselves would be putting on the show. Now it could be we have this comedy sketch, and basically I'd be facilitating all the gags, but the lads would be maybe shooting me. I have to hop off the ground, do a big break fall, or I might have all my clothes ripped off and I'd be in a pair of jocks standing there or whatever. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. But what we actually did was all the guys who were very self-conscious, no, in the first couple of months before the end of the whole show or at the end of the year, they were just so proud up on front of the stage. It was kind of that feeling, that Greatest Showman kind of thing, you know. This Is Me song kind of thing was one of our themes, and it just kind of showed the lads themselves what they could do if they had a bit of support, and each year it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and showed everyone who was there exactly what they can do. Because sometimes people kind of say, I'm sure it wouldn't be the same. I can tell you they put on some show. It's the exact same with anyone who steps on the mat who doesn't have the belief in themselves. I suppose that's my biggest thing, is trying to put a bit of belief into people as well. So
you must be continually fascinated by the potential of the human being.
You know, there's two sides of it. You know, what people believe they can do. You know, because what they've seen, or what people intrinsically just think, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. You know, like personally, I always had this concept of why can't I do it? You know, I always kind of like, Sean, you're too small to do that. Like I'm 5'6" and weigh 150 pounds. Maybe I sometimes bulk up to 160 after Christmas. And people say, "Oh, you're too small. You'd be too small." So I think, "Oh no, I could do that." You know, and other people they don't have that level of self-belief, and that maybe could be from being a kid or something and falling out of a tree and then kind of going, "I'll never be able to climb a tree." You know, I take a quote from Lightning McQueen. Do you know who he is?
From Cars, is it?
Yeah. You could find motivation from anywhere, lads. Yeah. I'll tell you. And it's in Cars 3, and I think it's Crew's little yellow car. She's kind of like she tried to be a race car driver or something like that, and she couldn't do it. And she kind of said, she asked Lightning, you know, like, how did you become a race car driver? How did you think you'd win it? And he said, I never thought I couldn't. Yeah. And that it's between two different mindsets, you know. And I think mindsets is what makes humans amazing. Apart from all the physical abilities and that, like I just go back to the autism. Like I see lads with autism who can figure out equations that are identify patterns that I cannot fathom. Yeah. You know, just because someone's not making eye contact doesn't mean they're not talking to you. Yeah. You know, so humans are just amazing. I'm telling you, and it takes all kinds of humans. You know, that's the thing. Like, human body's fantastic. Human mind's even more amazing.
That's what I got most from training jiu-jitsu with Seanie. It's not I can't do it, it's that I can't do it yet. Like, there was no way I ever thought I'd see myself doing an arm bar, but within a couple of months I sort of was there, like, and I was getting it slowly but surely. It just takes time. Yeah, you can't, just because you can't do it right now doesn't mean you can't do it tomorrow. Yeah.
That transfers over to other parts of your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like I say, if someone's pinning you down or choking you or something like that, right? Yeah, it's a miserable time. To be honest, like, someone choking you is not good. But you transfer that to real life. I always thought of like finding a $5 in your jeans pocket just before payday when you don't have a penny and you just want to get something in the shop. You know, like you're walking past and you're like, oh, jeez, I'm loving out. I don't know, a Moro or something like that. I had one out of selection box 10 minutes ago, and you're like, you haven't gone in your bank account, you're getting paid tomorrow, and then you just reach back in the back pocket, geez, there's a €2 coin, and you're like, oh my god, I have that tiny bit of breathing space, and you use that, and look, that two euro will just get you through till tomorrow. And it's like when you're being choked, And if you can move your head to the side slightly, again, tiny bit of breathing space. A tiny bit of breathing space. The same as trying to survive from one paycheck to another. A tiny bit of breathing space will help you survive and feel better. And you'll get there. You know, it's everything transitions from one part of life to another. And there's metaphors come out your ears if you want. Yeah. But it's just finding that little bit of breathing space. It's like finding that fiber in the pocket. It's like finding that tiny bit of space, just get a few more breaths in before you can get that time to escape. Yeah. You know, and it's being patient. That's the key. Be patient.
We're Mark and Michael, and this is our story. Welcome to our confession tape. So what happened was we had some technical difficulties in recording this podcast. Seanie was actually recorded before Tommy Martin, but what happened was the microphone wasn't working correctly.
Yeah. And it's my fault. I was late as well. I was unprepared, and this in itself, Paper Tuesday, is an example of why, you know, we learn a lot in the lessons of this podcast.
And anyway, to go a bit more into what happened or why this might seem weird, or
yes,
the video
please.
or sound might seem weird, is because we've gone back and recorded our end of the conversation. So we have a script of everything that me and Michael said for the whole show, and we've had to read. We've been reading lines for this whole recording. Seanie hasn't been here, and that's why it might sound weird. And sometimes it says ha 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 in the script that Robbie wrote, so it's been read as ha ha ha, not a real laugh.
Yeah.
So anyway, we might use a disclaimer, we might not, depending on how it comes out. But
yeah, and just to say, it couldn't have been saved without Robbie Dunn. That's just it goes without saying, because otherwise Seanie Davitt would be in the dustbin of history.
Yeah, definitely. It's been monumental.
Knock yourself out. Mark, is there anything else you witnessed as a first timer under Seanie doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I suppose what I noticed first was the community aspect of it, and how, you know, everyone there is more friends than people are just coming together for a sport or whatever. It's a real learning sort of an environment, and everyone there started at zero, and you can tell that, and they remember that. So they're very patient with you and very understanding of your level, and they work with you in that regard, and it's really good, and it's very nice environmental learning.
Yeah, that's one thing we really do focus on is community part. You know, if you're not in there, you're not having fun, why the hell would you do it? You know, it's the truth of it. Like, you know, you might as well be smiling while getting tortured as being grown on it. You know, and you know, sometimes the hardest parts are the most fun parts as well. You know, when you're someone to share it with you, you know, if you're doing a technique on someone and it might hurt, it's like, you know what, you're going to get to do it on him now in a second, or her, you know. And I can tell you, some of the ladies in the gym are the most vicious, you know. Yeah. You know, if you ever hear of the boa, you'll know.
There's a respect and discipline there as well, Seanie. There's no egos, no cliques. There's that embrace between fellow jiu-jitsu what do you call yourselves? Participants? And no shoes on the mats, and they're very important as well, aren't they, Seanie?
Oh, they're massive. Look, I think that's kind of inherent. You know, you walk into a place and you get the kind of culture of it pretty quick. You know, like on the first things when people come in, you know, you'll know who's a bit tentative, who's not comfortable. One of the first things I make one or two jokes. I just gotta say, all right, who's injured? Who's more injured than normal? Who, you know, and I welcome the new people. Maybe if there's a few of them there at first, I don't know all their names. And by the end of that session, I will know their names. You know, and you'll drop little hints during the session of what the kind of culture is. You know, we don't put shoes in the mats. And I say one of the reasons why we don't do that is because maybe you might have walked in dog shite, and your shoe goes on the mat, and then someone's face is rubbed on that. No one wants dog shit in their face. Nice, simple, straight to the point. You know, you say that in a kind of jokey way, and everyone goes, "Oh, yeah, that's true." You know, one of the things I'd say about respecting your training partners is, without your training partners, you can't really practice your jiu-jitsu. You know, so if you go around and be a douche and you really hurt people, no one's going to want to train with you. Therefore, you're not going to be able to progress your skills, and you know, you start relying on things that aren't really there, and that's another thing. Like, you know, like if I'm rolling, I don't mean to sound any cocky. I can roll with most of the guys there and have my wicked way if I wanted. But what am I going to learn about that? I'd rather kind of hop in, have a bit of fun, put myself in a dodgy position and go, right, I have no idea what this guy's going to do because he doesn't know really what to do from there. So total random. And then in my head, I have to go, right, how am I going to get out of this? And the other guy is focused on how am I going to get him? Totally alien concept. I can learn from that. Like I can continue to advance it because someone might have a totally unorthodox movement pattern. And I go, oh, never saw that coming. And they probably never saw the escape. So even at a black belt with 20-something years of grappling experience, I can still kind of get caught. It's like, yeah, cool, I learn. You're on anyone who's in train on the mat. There's no heroes there. It's just soldiers. Everyone's there to learn, progress. Yeah, you have your leaders. Every army does, but it doesn't mean anyone's more important than anyone else. Bruce Lee said, if you have 2 arms, 2 legs, you just choose to use them differently. That's it. So like everyone, as far as I'm concerned, everyone in my gym, no matter what ability level, they're all equal. Anyone who steps on a mat is a hero to me. Because you put yourself out there. It's hard to even get in there sometimes. Work hard all day, listen to absolute hell, or geez, depends on what your job is. We have teachers, guards, social care workers, social workers, everything in there. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. When you're on the mat, you're all equal. You're working together to get stronger and to have the crack as well. That's it. Like some of the best fun you have is straight after the session when everyone's after choking each other and we're just slagging the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is get people to go bloody home.
Have you traveled much to learn jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Usually we go to Portugal every year. The team this year, COVID kind of put paid on that. I went to the States there 2 years ago to teach seminars for 2 weeks. I've traveled to compete in UK, Spain, Scotland. That's all judo as well. I've done quite a bit of traveling. I love it. Absolutely love it. It opens such opportunities as well. Yeah.
Most of it was learned fairly locally though, was it?
Most of it where I learned it from. The judo was all Waterford. Right. And I was in college down WIT, learned it there. And then the coach kind of retired then and I kind of had to take it up. So a lot of that after I got my black belt was self-taught. I travel occasionally up to the national squads and take techniques from there in sessions and that. My jiu-jitsu as well largely was very self-taught. I got fundamentals. Well, I adopted them from judo, which anyone knows they're very similar. It's kind of same jacket, different rules. You knew much the same stuff. Well, like I've traveled for seminars, like I said, to learn Dublin, Cork, all over Ireland. If there's someone coming over that I think would be really interesting to learn off, of course I'm going to go learn. I have no bother if they want to use me as a bloody guinea pig. I'm kind of getting the, wow, you have to find out exactly where it hurts. I'll travel anywhere, but largely, most of everything I learned is in Wexford.
That's interesting, Johnny. While people think they need to travel to upskill, I never thought someone could emerge from Waterford with a black belt in judo. So I suppose it shows just how accessible martial arts are here.
Yeah, no, it's very accessible. Look, to get your judo black belt, you do all the training, but you have to go to a national grading to get it. In order to get to test your theory thing, you have to, for your black belt, you have 6 people going for it on the day. You have to win 5 matches against those guys. So if you win those 5 matches, those guys are not getting their black belt that day. All right. So it's not exactly blood sport or something, but it's some of the most aggressive matches you will ever see. And there's no weight division.
Judo hurts.
It's gravity. What goes up goes down very hard. And you have to win those to get your Batsukan. That's kind of like an honor. And then you do your theory test. Once you finish that, you have to do your kata test. And then a technique test. So judo black belt's very prestigious. It's very hard to come by. So you have to get your certain amount of points to get it. So once you're training hard and you have good training partners around you, yeah, you will get it, but the fact that the team we had in Waterford at that time there was a lot of black belts there, and they just bet me up. They beat me to a pulp. And then I learned that was the standard I needed to be at in order to get my black belt, and I did. And now a couple of my friends are judo black belts as well. We would have been the old guard down the WIT team for a long time, and yeah, we done it. And it's a matter of just putting a team together. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be out in the backyard. Once you get the right people working together, on a similar mindset, it works. And so Waterford was great, and we're replicating in Gorey now. We're making some really high class athletes there, with a good attitude as well. It's no point in having a bad attitude and being really good at beating people up if no one wants to train with you.
What strikes me about Gorey Grappling Academy is that you have some real good role models and leaders and people that are going to excel not only in martial arts but also in their personal life and their career as well. Seanie, you had to go through the discipline, and how is that transferred to your personal life?
Simple philosophy. If you want something, go and get it. Do everything in your power to get it. Figure out what you need to do. People talk about this great idea of a long-term goal, and they're like, oh, great, someday I will be this. Then it's short-term goal, use this. Don't forget there's process goals as well. There's all those little tools you need to achieve that. First of all, if you're going to want to progress to a higher belt, train. And the other thing, don't quit until you get what you want. And once you've got there, you're going to want more, so you're going to keep progressing. So trust the process, trust yourself, and just don't give up. And I don't give up on stuff. That's my thing. I'm nearly 40 and I'm still competing at a fairly decent level, because I believe I can, and because I want to, that's it. You just you can choose to give up. Failure is an option. Giving up is an option. You just don't have to accept it. And if there's an obstacle, find how to get over it. If you can't get over it, go around it. Can't do that, go under it. There's always ways around an obstacle, and have a few people behind you that support you and give you the help that you need. I could say, if I said, I do sports psychology, I go, oh, grand. If I just said I do psychology, it doesn't sound as cool, does it? If you said you want to go talk to a psychologist, people say, oh, you obviously must be mad. Say, I'm going to talk to a sports psychologist. Oh, wow, awesome. And it's just packaging it up and just sell it off a different way. That's all this stuff is. If you're talking to a sports psychologist, half the time you're having a counseling session, about everything else that's distracting you from actually the sport that you're meant to be doing. And just compartmentalizing and putting it away. And that's, if you really want to achieve something, sometimes you need to compartmentalize other things, put them to the side and focus on the task at hand and say, right, that's done. Now I'll take that box out and do it. Life's only as complicated as you make it a lot of the time.
On sports psychology, do you work one-on-one? Do you work with teams? And what's your focus?
Sports psychology, I generally, there doesn't seem to be a draw for it down in Wexford direction. I would happily put it out there one-on-ones, but a lot of time I just include it in my coaching. I'll happily do it like I done with Jason and stuff. I remember he said, do you want me to do one-on-one session? He said, no, just talk to the lads. That's it. Sometimes someone might be able to get a last set doing a heavy squat or something, and so you don't have to put the arm around them. You just said, Jesus, that was pretty impressive. You get it next time. And if they think that you're an appropriate role model, they'll go, all right, that means something, and that builds up the confidence as well. What I like to do, like higher performance stuff with sports psychology, of course, I'd love to do it. Okay. But the first thing where we are at the moment, it's very hard to do it. People are so focused on the physical attributes. Like, there's a lot of really good personal trainers out there. Mark is one of them. There's a lot of really good guys out there, And people are focused on that physical aspect at the moment, and they forget about that top 6 inches. Eddie O'Sullivan would have been a big fan of the top 6 inches, using your head. That's what's going to get the best performance. Mark, I'd say, like, if you're trying to get a guy to lift like a 1 rep max, okay, and they know that, Jesus, the most I've ever lifted is 80. They kind of set that bar at it, don't they? Kind of say, right, how do you think you get them to lift that 82.5 kilo? If you can expand the person's mind and their belief, their body will progress. You know, wherever the head goes, the body follows. You know, that's in martial arts techniques, but it's in life as well. If your head believes you can go somewhere, your body will follow it. Like, your body's only a tool.
Yeah, actually, Sean, I don't know if you remember, but the first time we met, when we rolled, you told me you were a sports psychologist, and I sort of told you a few problems I had in the past when it came to sport and my performance on the pitch and off it.
Yeah, all right.
But what you told me was that basically I think it was 4 reasons why people don't achieve their goals because of their own psychology, and I think one was fear of winning, and that one stood out to me. But what were the other ones?
Yeah, like that. There's four big things people are afraid of. This is in life in general. All right. So fear of the unknown. That's what you were touching on there, Mark. Okay. All right. Fear of injury, fear of being evaluated by other people, and what do you think the other one is? You just said it. Fear of the outcome, winning or losing. You know, like, if you win, brilliant, everyone loves you, and you're like, oh, great, oh, shite, now I'm in the Premier League, I'm Fulham, oh no, all right. You know, you fear of losing. It's like, no one likes to lose. But I find the biggest one was the fear of being evaluated by other people, what other people think of you. You know, like, just say you went shopping one day and you got a deadly jacket, what you thought was a deadly jacket, and you're like, oh, hey, I got this, you know, and you walk out and someone said, oh, geez, that thing looks like muck on you. And you're like, oh, you know, it's what other people think of you has such an effect on you emotionally, but a lot of it is just being secure in yourself as well. Like, I know my hair is fuzzy as that most of the time, okay, and I do not care, you know. That's it. Like, but it really does get in on some people, you know, what other people think of them, and that's what some people are afraid of. You know, fear of injury. That's fairly self-explanatory, really, isn't it? And I think that's it. Like, you know, it's people's fears.
Yeah, and especially when it's fear of outcome, it's change, and change can be scary. But another thing was letting other people's view influence us too much. And I came up recently with the simple idea of just saying, well, what is that telling me about myself more so than anything?
Is it a question of, is your opinion of yourself based off what other people see you?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's a form of narcissism. You know, if you're so concerned what other people see you, you're seeing them as the mirror. You know, you're looking at other people, and what they reflect back to you is the image that you think of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just have to take away that and just have a look from inside yourself and say what you actually are. What other people see of you is based off their, you know, their history and what their perception is. You know, so, like, don't forget, someone's opinion is simply a result of their past. You know, like, you might say, I like salty chips. Someone say, oh, I don't like salty chips. And you're like, why don't you like salty chips? Or like, oh, I had its greasy ones before. And you're going, okay, fair enough. That explains why you don't like salty chips. Yeah. You know, it's a bit early for salty chips, but it just popped into my head there.
You mentioned rock climbing earlier, Shawnee. When did that come up? Was it just a hobby, or?
Yeah. I look, I've got a hell of a lot of injuries, you know, but probably my gnarliest one is my right knee. I'll show you in a minute. But I was we were rock climbing on a school tour before, and the harness came undone. So I fell about 30 foot and smashed my knee on a rock on the way down. So it kind of looks like a dog's leg. But I like extreme sports stuff. You know, like, I love rock climbing. I love surfing. I'm a very outdoorsy kind of guy. But yeah, I'll show you this now. And Waterford Hospital said, can you see that there? There we go. That's my leg as straight as it goes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fairly very warped. Yeah, so I have no posterior cruciate ligament in that. You know, and they kind of the Waterford Hospital. I think I was like 16 when it happened. It was the end of my boxing career anyway. And they said, "Oh, it'll grow back." It didn't. So all throughout my judo career, jiu-jitsu and MMA and all that, I never had a PCL in my right knee.
JD Mac.
It's like I've two kneecaps, so it's just a knee full of solid bone, which is really good for hitting people with. But it hurts sometimes when the weather is cold. Arthritis sets in, So yeah, no, I love stuff like that. But yeah, rock climbing, it hurts when you fall.
Sean, we're going to do some silly questions now that'll be a bit less philosophical. So, if you could be any inanimate object, what would it be and why?
Oh, Jesus. Any inanimate object. Oh, probably a stapler. Yeah. Hold things together, highly functional.
And what's your favourite all-time book?
My favourite all-time book? Ooh. Favourite all-time book? I'm going to say Bret the Hitman Hart's autobiography.
Oh, I didn't know he had one.
Oh, geez, he does, yeah. He talks all about the Montreal screw job, and he talks about all the stuff behind the scenes and his family things and the death of his brother and all that. Really good.
Yeah, that was rough about Owen.
Well, Owen, yeah, no, it's a tough one, but it's a good book. Like,
wasn't that on live television?
No, it was on a pay-per-view. He was meant to come down out of the rafters as I think the Blue Blazer or something like that, and police said it was worse than what happened to me. Like his harness was undone, came down, hit the head off the turnbuckle, stone dead, and they had to go and continue the pay-per-view. The show has to go on. That was WWE. Like, it was. But there's a whole world of stuff that goes on behind those curtains and all as well. Like those guys. By the end of Pearl Jake the Snake, he was turning up to do shows for a bag of cocaine. Like, he was in bits. Chris Benoit. We know what happened with him. On so many steroids, his brain was so many concussions, just wasn't working for him anymore, and he literally lost the plot. Killed the wife, killed the family. Not good.
You had another one, Shawnee, on Instagram. The Art of War, was it?
Oh, geez, yeah. Sensu's The Art of War. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Couple of 1,000 years old, but it's the intricacies of it, like how to use someone's weapons against them. If an enemy's charging at you with loads of chariots, don't stand in the way. Take over those chariots, use them against them, but give one of the chariots to the first guy who captures it. It motivates them because the prestige and all that. Know your surroundings. Pick the place where you want the battle to be. So I suppose my world. Do I want to start a fight standing? Hell yeah. Other things like if you have an advantage in some form, force your advantage. It transcends to business. If you're bigger than the opponent's company or whatever like that, engulf them. If they're the same size, don't engage until you find a way of being bigger or weaken them. It's brilliant stuff. Yeah, and it transcends the world. A lot of business people read it and use it. It's like the Book of Five Rings as well, another one. It's all old wisdom, but sure, look, with business, war, it's all. There's a lot of similarities, just human behavior and learning how to understand it.
Next question, Sean. I know we talked about the rock climbing accident earlier, but what's the closest you've ever come to dying? Do you reckon that was it?
No, actually, it was a 2-year-old and used to live in a really old house, and it went to fire and I was caught inside it. Yeah, I got out of it though. I was also hit by a truck. When I was in a buggy, I was about 2-year-old around Camolan. It's okay. We got a new buggy. Let me see. What other kind of things? Out running one day and the Citroen Saxo just plowed into the back of me. Oh my God. High-vis jacket. He just put his hand out and said, Oh, sorry about that, mate. I was in a ditch. I was full of adrenaline and ran home. People have tried to mug me before. Didn't work out so well. Put 4 of them in hospital. So I got stabbed with a Stanley knife, though.
What? You got stabbed?
Stabbed with a Stanley knife, yeah. Or slashed. You know, I was on the way home from was it Ruby's in Waterford, and I had a kebab and taking a shortcut home. And so I suppose, look, I had my hair down, tight jeans. I probably looked like a young one from behind, you know. They got an awful surprise. Yeah. So I got attacked, and I got my kebab home and went to the guard station and told them. But all I remember hearing was crunch and cracks and all that. Mark, you know my hip throws are like my harigashis and ogashis and all that.
Yes, yeah.
Onto curbs and arm bars and stuff like that. So yeah, put them in hospital. They were found in the hospital. One of them still carrying Stanley knife, you know. So they didn't press charges apparently. So yeah, that's a couple of close ones, but I'm not dead yet. I told you, immortal until proven otherwise.
A despondent-looking Brian Cody walked into the tunnel, and I went over to him and said, "Brian, you can't begrudge us this." He looked back at me and simply replied, "Well done, well done."
Oh, nice.
Takes a praise, man.
Play on words there. Will I give you a quote from a book?
Oh,
yeah,
please do.
All right, let's see what have I got here.
This is great.
Right. Stephen King's It. Now there is 1,141 pages. Pick one.
999.
999. Okay. Yes, there is a lot of pages in here. Right. The car was gone, and that was all. Probably went shopping with her friend Debbie, Stan said. There you go. Oh, I might as well. Stan said, frowning a little as he ate an egg salad sandwich. That's the word of Stephen King.
Amen. Some comparison. Liam Dunn's story and It.
Like I was going to tell you, one of the things that we're bringing in the academy this year is, have you ever heard of collar and elbow wrestling? It's an old Irish style of wrestling.
What?
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
We're going to be we're going to be the team for Wexford. That's going to be doing it. So we're bringing back old school Irish wrestling.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you know in the 1890s there were these Gaelic sports days, and they were held in right across the country, but there were ones held in Inch, and they included, as part of the day of activity, be it a hurling match, there was also wrestling bouts between people from various parts of the area, and they'd also have tug of war competitions as well. So yeah, wrestling is part of our nature.
Yep, that's exactly what we'd be doing.
Wow.
You know, the rules are pretty. I got contacted about it actually, just because of my backgrounds and stuff like that. It's pretty straightforward. You grab a guy at the collar, you grab a guy at the elbow. You are not allowed to release those grips under any circumstances. And if another point of your body hits the ground, you lose. That's it. So you would have back in the day had lads wearing hobnail boots, kicking the shins off each other. So, you know, you ever hear of like scuffling or having a scuffle?
Yeah. Right.
That's where it came from. That's what the Yanks used to call Irish wrestling. It was a scuffle.
Right. Yeah.
So you'd be trying to trip each other up or throw each other, but you had to constantly have those handles, those grips.
We fighting in our blood, really, don't we?
Jesus, yes.
Even when you think back of it, I think there's an example in Donnybrook in Dublin. The area gets its name from Donnybrook is an old English word for a fight, and eventually the fights became so gruesome that in the 1850s, well, should the church decided there was only one way to sort this out, and it was to put build a church right where the fights used to take place.
Yeah. Hey, it's one of the best ways to resolve issues. I think there's some place in Mexico, is it? It's not some South American country anyway. And you can have public disorder fights one day of the year to resolve your issues. And that's it. You know, you would have like, say 2 guys, they went off the same young one the same night, okay? At least they were crossing sabers. And they're like, I want to be with him or whatever. They would say, right, we're signed up to have our fight on that day.
Yeah.
And they'll go resolve it, shake hands at the end, done. you know, and there any issues that were in the village, they were all sorted in the ring or whatever in the crowd thing,
Yeah.
and issue resolved. They just sorted out one-on-one.
Isn't that great?
Could you imagine if things were done like that now?
Back.
Yeah, all done, and it'd be the biggest drinking session ever afterwards, you know. And that's it. That they resolved it. Have a punch up and have pints. That was how it was done.
Brilliant.
It's probably why the biggest guy kind of always was the king of the the place. All right, but sure, look, it's how things were done. You know, I do like democracy and law and order as well, by the way. You know, but it's always good to know you have your back covered if you need it.
Yeah.
Seanie, thanks very much for that. We really appreciate it. We learned a hell of a lot from that.
Cheers, Shawnee. Thanks very much. That was great.
Not a bother, lads. Not a bother. Look forward to hearing how it goes and all right?
Yeah, thanks a million, Shawnee. That was great.